Welcome back to committees. We're going to pick up today from where we left off. We've talked about the purpose of committees. They're little legislators. This is where all the real work is done. Once a bill is assigned to a presiding officer, and remember the presiding officer is very, very powerful. They get to assign what committee the bill is going to go to. The committee will vote on the bill, they'll amend it, mark it up. They may or may not vote on it. If it passes out of committee, it can go up. I've included a little chart here to kind of make life easier. I'm starting off with the Senate. It can start off in the House, it can start off in the Senate. I had to pick one. Not all bills have to start in the Senate. So introduction to the Senate. The presiding officer will assign the bill to a committee. Senate committee action. This is where they will decide if they're going to debate the bill. They can mark it up, they can amend it, they can change it. They may call witnesses for or against the bill. They can do any of these things, or they don't have to do anything. Let's assume that the bill passes. They mark up the bill, it passes out of committee, they approve it. It's then placed on the Senate calendar. Remember, the Senate calendar has the blocking bill. To come off the Senate calendar, it must go in chronological order, so you have to have suspension of the rule. Once we have suspension of the rule, it is brought off the calendar and brought onto the Senate floor for debate. We have the filibuster in the Senate, and this is the only place we have the filibuster. But we assume it passes the Senate. Remember, it takes 19 to have a suspension of the rule. It takes a simple majority. It takes 16 to pass the bill. So the bill passes the Senate. It starts over in the House. Introduction in the House. Assignment to a committee. The committee can mark it up, change it, amend it. They can call witnesses for or against, or they don't have to do anything with it. If they pass, that's a House committee action. If they pass the bill, it will go to the House Calendars Committee. Remember, the Senate does not have this. Only the House does. The House Calendars Committee is a committee that will assign a date for the bill to be debated, but they will also put in the restrictions. They will put in how much time is allowed to debate it, if it's open rule, if it's closed rule, meaning are they allowed to add amendments to it. After the House Calendars Committee, the date finally comes. The bill comes up on the House floor for debate. You have your leaders. They get up, they discuss the bill, they talk about the good things about it. Those opposed will talk about the bad things about it. We assume that the bill passes the House. Once a bill passes the House and Senate, it's eligible to go to the governor for his signature to become a law. However, both versions of the bill must look exactly alike. They must read alike. Word for word. They have to match exactly. What do you think the chances are that a bill is going to go through the Senate, get passed by the Senate, then go through the House and get passed by the House, and it's going to come out looking the same? Chances are really good this isn't going to happen. So what happens after the Senate passes its version, basically, and the House passes their version, is the Senate and the Senate members and House members meet in a conference committee. They have a certain number meet, and they're going to meet to iron out the differences on their bill. The Senate might say, well, we need point A, B, C, we would like D and E. The House might say, well, we like point A and B, but we can't give you C, but we can give you D. We have to have E. So this is just a compromise session. what is needed, what is necessary to pass the bill. It's important to realize that bills can die here too. Just because it gets to the House and it gets to the Senate, if they're different versions, they are not necessarily going to agree. So the bill can pass initially, but we get to a conference committee, we might not agree. The bill might die. This is still an opportunity or an option. Assume that we work it out. We work out our differences. It starts over. It starts over in the House, starts over in the Senate. However, we expect it to go much more smoothly now. We've already voted on it once in our chamber, and the other chamber, we've already had our compromise. So we expect this bill to sail through into final passage. We expect it to pass both the House and the Senate. I've included a picture or a chart, whatever you want to call it. Once it passes the House and the Senate, it becomes an act of the legislature. If you'll see the purple box here, it then goes to the governor's desk for his signature to make it a law, or he can choose not to sign it and veto it. I've actually included this. This is a link to how a bill becomes a law. It's the old schoolhouse rock. It applies to federal government, but it applies to how Texas does our bill making process, our legislative making process. If you watch this, if you just substitute the Texas legislature for Congress and governor for the president, it applies to our process today. Okay, so the governor has some options. The governor may sign a bill into law. If he signs the bill, it becomes a law in 90 days, unless that particular bill has a certain start date written into it. He doesn't have to sign the bill. If he doesn't sign it, the bill still becomes law in 10 days if the legislature is not in session, or it becomes a law in 20 days. Becomes a law in 10 days if the legislature is in session, becomes a law in 20 days if the legislature is not in session. So even if he chooses not to sign it, it will still become a law. I did not talk about the veto power here. The governor can choose to veto the bill. He can choose to say, I am not signing it. We will discuss this veto power when we discuss the executive branch. I have tried to get across how important, how powerful the presiding officers are, the lieutenant governor, the Speaker of the House. I have tried to tell you how a lot of people don't want to cross them, don't want to aggravate them because of the power they wield. They can be very vindictive. We see this specifically in the House of Representatives. Once the Speaker of the House wins his House membership, do you want to challenge him? Remember, the Speaker of the House is coming from the House itself. He's a member of the House. So it's going to take another House member to challenge him. Are you going to challenge somebody on the off chance that you lose? Because what happens if you do? Is the Speaker of the House going to forgive you? Say, oh, that's okay. You challenged me, my authority. You challenged me for my position. Let me help you out. Or is he going to retaliate? Is he going to put you on bad committees? Is he going to put you in a place where you can't succeed, where you can't bring stuff home to your district? There are other institutional tools of leadership. There are other things that affect the legislature, how they work, where they get information from. First one is something called the Legislative Budget Board. The LBB, Legislative Budget Board, has 10 members It operates continuously, even while the legislature is not in session. Remember, our legislature only meets once every 2 years. They meet in odd-numbered years for 140 days. The Legislative Budget Board is a permanent joint committee of the Texas Legislature which develops budget and policy recommendations for legislative appropriations. So they make recommendations to the legislature on how to spend money. They will complete fiscal analysis for proposed legislation. So they will say, okay, your proposed bill will cost this much to implement, or this is how much money it will need to fully implement. It will also conduct evaluations and reviews to improve the efficiency and performance of state and local operations. The next one is the Legislative Council. The Legislative Council consists of 14 members. It is chaired jointly by the Speaker of the House and the Lieutenant Governor. The presiding officers are the two chairmen on this council. The Texas Legislative Council is a nonpartisan legislative agency that helps provide bill drafting services, computing services, it'll help with research, publishing, and also provides document distribution services to the Texas Legislature and the other legislative agencies. The Council can also serve as a source of information resource for state agencies, the citizens of Texas, and any others, as long as the Legislative Council has time and resources to fulfill these other duties. The Legislative Audit Committee. The Legislative Audit Committee is a permanent standing joint committee. It is made up of 6 members: the Lieutenant Governor, the Speaker of the House, 1 member of the Senate appointed by the Lieutenant Governor, the Chairman of the Senate Finance Committee, the Chairman of the House Appropriations Committee, and the Chairman of the House Ways and Means Committee. Their job is to appoint and govern the state auditor. Sunset Advisory Commission. This commission was created in 1977. The job of the Sunset Advisory Commission is to identify and eliminate waste, duplication, and inefficiency in government agencies. This 12-member commission is a legislative body that reviews the policies and programs for more than 150 government agencies. The problem here is that it reviews these agencies on a 12-year cycle. So I said there's over 150. Let's lowball it. Let's say there is only 150 on a 12-year cycle. 150 divided by 12, once every 12 years, is 12 and a half. Basically 12 months. Or you're going to review 12 agencies a year. So once a month, this commission is going to review one agency for a month and then move on. And once you complete your review, you're not going to hear from them again for another 12 years. So this commission questions the needs for each agency. They look for potential duplication of other public services or programs. They will consider new or innovative changes to improve each agency's operations and activities. The Commission will seek public input through hearings on every agency under Sunset Review, and they make their recommendations on each agency to the full legislature. In most cases, agencies under Sunset Review are automatically abolished unless legislation is enacted to continue them. What that means is that if you're in a Sunset Advisory, if the Sunset Advisory Commission says they're a waste of taxpayers' time and money, your agency is going to be abolished unless the legislature steps in and changes you, or they say, no, we want to keep it for whatever reason. The last thing I want to talk about, and this is going to tie back into the presiding officers. Oh, wait. I'm sorry. Let me give you a term you're going to hear. Again, on some of these things we just talked about, the Budget Board, the Legislative Council, the Audit Committee, the Advisory Commission, well, the first three. When I was going over membership, I would say that the membership consists of the Lieutenant Governor. Membership consists of the Speaker of the House. They are members of this committee. They are ex post, P-O-S-T, facto, F-A-C-T-O, ex post facto members. And what that means is they didn't get appointed to this board or commission. They didn't run for election. They didn't get elected to this board. The only reason they are placed on this board is because they hold another office. They hold another elected office. That's what ex post facto means. They are placed here because they hold something else. You will see this term again. That's why I wanted to explain it now. I hope I've done a good job in trying to impress on you the importance of committees, but also the importance of presiding officers to the committees. They dictate which committee gets which bill. They get to dictate who is on the committee so that the work can be done. They get to dictate who they recognize in support of the bill or who they recognize in opposition of the bill. The presiding officers in the Texas legislature are very, very powerful in how work gets accomplished. But I do need you to realize that we do see some restraints on the powers of the presiding officers. There is something that somewhat limits their power. The first thing is simply personality. These presiding officers, are they strong and ruthless? Or are they easygoing and willing to compromise? You know, can you work with somebody, or are you going to tell somebody, hey, it's my way or the highway. If you don't support me, I'm going to do my best to make sure you're not reelected. Which type of person would you rather work with? The team. The presiding officers must build a team of other legislators that they can count on, that they will do their bidding without question. The lobby and the bureaucracy. What do the lobbyists want? What does big business want? Are they on board with it? What is the bureaucracy? And we'll spend a week talking about this later. What do these state agencies want? These need to be taken into account when our presiding officers are making their decisions. The governor. Is the governor on board with it? Are they on the same page? Does he want what the speaker wants and what the lieutenant governor wants? If they are on the same page, if they want the same thing, that's great. The governor will sign the legislation. But what if they're not? As the Speaker of the House, as Lieutenant Governor, are you going to threaten, cajole, whatever you have to do to pass legislation, only to have the governor say, I don't like it, I'm going to veto it? So you need to make sure the governor's on board with you before you spend all this time, effort, energy, cajoling, threatening, whatever term you want to use, people to vote your way if the governor's just gonna veto it. The political climate. Political climate is us, we the people. How do we feel about this issue? What does the public want? How does the public feel? Do we want there to be a law? Do we not want there to be a law? This is where the presiding officers take our wants and our needs into consideration. Political or economic ambitions. And this is a restraint that the presiding officer places upon themselves. Do they have future political ambitions? If you're the lieutenant governor, do you one day plan to run for governor? Do you one day plan to run for a member of the U.S. House of Representatives or become a U.S. Senator? Why is this important? Because what do you need to get elected? You need money. So are you going to create laws that are going to help out big business, oil, things like this? You have to keep in mind, how are your actions now going to affect potential donors to your campaign? So if you get a law passed that hurts oil, that hurts big business, do you think they're going to donate to your campaign at a future date? Probably not. What's economic ambition? This is simple. You're the lieutenant governor. Do you get paid a lot? No, you get paid $7,200 a year. You have a real job. Or same for the Speaker of the House, but still. What if you want to make more money? Part of this economic ambition is we will see our presiding officers pass bills to once again help provide benefits for oil for big business, with the expectation of, once I am done with my public service, once I am done in politics, I can come out and I can get a job with one of these companies that I helped pass legislation for. This is my reward. I will do this for you, your company now, but when I'm done in public service, you will reward me by giving me a nice high-paying job with your company. Finally, they have other legislators that act as a restraint on their power. What we have to realize is that other legislators, while yes, the presiding officers have all this power over them, however, these other legislators still, for a lack of a better term, serve other masters. What do I mean by that? Ultimately, these other legislators are responsible to the people in their district, and it is the people in their district who re-elect them, who keep on putting them in this position. So we'll see at times if it comes down to our legislators making a choice between defying the will of the presiding officers or defying the will of the people that elect them. If these are two separate choices, if the presiding officers want A and the people want B, oftentimes the legislators will go with B because these are the people that will continue to elect them. I hope this helps. Relatively quick this week. I'll see you again for our next lecture.